Hello again, and welcome back to Spain to Go, the greatest podcast in the entire multiverse about all things Spain. As usual, I'm your host, Daniel Welsh. I'm speaking to you from the beautiful city of Barcelona, and hot damn, is it an interesting time to be a person of any gender here in Spain. Women's Day is right around the corner, and today we're going to talk about the new Ley Trans, the government's sex-based quotas, and the divisions within the feminist movement over the prostitution issue, solo si es si, and other things. Yes, we are going to talk about sex, and by sex I do not mean intercourse. What do I mean exactly? Well, I'm not sure. It's complicated. Because what is sex anyway? Remember health class back in middle school? You may have had an experience similar to mine. I'm seeing myself right now back on the ranch in Arizona, a greasy-haired 7th grader, listening to the sorta cool PE teacher who was also the health teacher, as he spent about a week standing in front of a few large diagrams and explaining the ins and outs of the big SEX. You probably know the diagrams I'm talking about, the cross-section of a human being's reproductive apparatus, neatly labeled male or female according to what organs were being pictured. Imagine yourself or a loved one being suspended on a medieval torture device, then split right up the middle, starting between your legs. The resulting cross-section would leave your gonads and such out in the air for anyone to see, and if someone were to make a diagram, you could perhaps use it in a middle school health class. They really did this back in the day. It was called death by sawing, and you can read about it on Wikipedia. Anyway, that's the sort of imagination exercise that will get you to this cross-section diagram. The sorta cool PE teacher stood there, in any case, with his long wooden pointer, indicating the clitoris, the fallopian tubes, the testes, the glands, the delicate ballet of vagina, urethra, and rectum, all running in parallel, while we kids sat and giggled nervously. I hadn't yet had sex at that point. I guessed most other 7th graders in my class hadn't either. And so the whole sex ed experience made it sound like a sort of awkward medical procedure to be undertaken with caution. Appropriate organs wrapped in latex for reasons of hygiene. Those were simpler times, of course. They taught us that sex could lead to HIV, herpes, genital warts, pregnancy, or extreme embarrassment. But as far as I know, nobody was questioning the basic male-female dichotomy, or the biology of ovaries equals woman and testes equals man. Now, things are different. How? I'm not really sure. Let's talk about it. First up, Spain's new Ley Trans makes sex change easy. At the end of February, the government's new trans law was published. It's a very long document with plenty of stuff about the protection of LGBTI people in general, and I've only read the relevant parts of Title II. You can check out the whole thing in the Boletín Oficial del Estado if you want. It is, of course, in Spanish, and it is very long, but it's there. Among other things, the trans law allows anyone age 16 or older to change their bureaucratic sex just by filling out some papers. No parental consent, no medical certificate, no psychologist, no hormones. Men can now become women and vice versa at the stroke of a pen. By bureaucratic sex, I mean, of course, the little m for masculino and f for femenino, we all have on our national ID cards. Does this apply to immigrants like myself with a NIE? Well, apparently it does, but it's a longer process with more paperwork to change my card. What effects will this have on Spanish society? Only time will tell, I guess. It's a pretty complex topic. So far, according to what I've read, men who become women will have all the rights and protections established in the Ley Orgánica 3-2007 for the effective equality of women and men. That is another very long document, and I haven't read it, but you're more than welcome to go down that rabbit hole if you would like. It's on Google. On the other hand, women who choose to become men will not lose any special rights they had before their transitions with regards to inheritances and such. This is written in the trans law. I'm not sure what it means. I'm assuming that some forms of inheritance are from father to son, and if you happened to be born as the son and later change your sex, you will still be able to get the inheritance. I think that's what it means, but you're welcome to fact check me if you would like. So that's one thing. For now, let's move on to sex-based quotas in governments and major companies. Over the weekend, the government also announced that they'll be passing sex-based quotas for both members of parliament, government ministers, and for the boards of directors of large companies. Details are still a bit fuzzy since the law hasn't been passed yet, but for now it appears they'll be requiring 50% of all members of parliament to be women, no matter which party is in power. An exact 50-50 split of the two bureaucratic sexes, in other words. The electoral lists will alternate man-woman all the way down, by law. So no matter who gets elected, things should shake out to a 50-50 split after every election. At least that's my understanding. In large companies and among government ministers, it'll be 60-40. At least 40% of the boards of directors and ministries will have to be composed of the less represented sex. The EU has recently passed a similar directive. I guess this is going to be a Europe-wide thing sooner or later. So, sex-based quotas. I'm not sure what to think. My first reaction was, that's silly, and my second was, well, I mostly despise politicians anyway, so this changes nothing for me. In reality, I don't follow much of the who's who of Spanish politics, and I don't have much hope that changing the mix of women and men in parliament will improve the lives of the average person. But maybe it'll help, who knows. The bigger question in my mind is this: how will the quota system, etc., interact with the new law saying anyone can change their sex at any time? People tend to follow incentives, and if, for example, you declare one sex to be basically toxic, while also allowing members of that sex to opt out and join a protected class, well, I'll let you fill in the blanks there. And if you think I'm exaggerating with the basically toxic bit, gentle listener, please allow me to translate a few of today's major news headlines for you. These are from Spanish newspapers. There are links on my blog, expatmadrid.com, to all of these articles. Article number 1. Post-sexism, the outraged movement that wants to destroy feminism's achievements. That's from El País. Article number 2. Digital misogynists, how they act and why they get away with it. That's La Vanguardia. And my personal favorite, who will stop the terrorist movement of sexually frustrated men? That's also La Vanguardia, writing about the incel community, which happens to be a favorite topic of journalists in Spain these days. Anyway, that's just headlines I've seen today. And to be fair, we're in the run-up to Women's Day, so it's natural there would be more focus on these sorts of issues this week. But still. Anyway, all this brings us to our final point. Spanish feminism is divided on Women's Day. March 8th is International Women's Day, and as usual, there will be marches in cities all over Spain, and a general strike for those who wish to participate. But this year things will be a bit different, due to the divisions within Spain's feminist movement. One issue is the trans law I mentioned earlier. Some feminists believe that making sex, or gender perhaps, into a simple bureaucratic formality, quote, erases womanhood. Others believe people should be free to change their sex or gender at will. Another issue is the Solo Si es Si law, which was intended to bring consent to the forefront of sexual assault cases, but which also had the side effect of letting a certain number of rapists out of prison. I wrote a bit about that in a previous article, but once again it's a complex topic. My understanding is that they changed the minimum prison sentences or maximum prison sentences for a variety of different sexual assault types, and some prisoners turned out to have already served the new maximum sentences, so they were let out of prison as soon as the law passed. Anyway, it is a complex topic. There are people on both sides of the issue. Finally, there's a new scandal on the block. The PSOE, the Partido Socialista, the Socialist Party, which is part of the ruling coalition, has a corruption and a prostitution problem. The Caso Mediador, as it's being called, involves Canary Islands MP Juan Bernardo Fuentes, also known as Tito Berni, and an unknown number of others in a web of lies: bribery, extortion, money laundering, coke, and hookers. The story is pretty new, and there will surely be more details soon, but these things tend to drag on for years, and I quickly lose patience. Like I said, I despise politicians. But, allegedly, Tito Berni was asking Canarian business owners for bribes in exchange for special consideration when it came to public contracts. He was extorting, allegedly, those who refused, and then taking everyone out to the local putti club for some hookers and blow action after hours. Prostitution, as I explained in another article, is legal here in Spain. But again, that's controversial. The leftist coalition government is divided over whether to abolish it, regulate it, or, apparently, enjoy it in the company of friends. So, the feminist government has some big problems this Women's Day. It must be said that Spain's parliament is already one of the most equal in Europe in terms of the sexes, with more than 40% of MPs currently identifying as women. And they like to call themselves the most feminist government that Spain has ever had. But the deep divide between old-school radical feminism and the new postmodern queer feminism is not going to be swept under the rug. Apropos of nothing, the Spanish Communist Party is celebrating Women's Day with a call to sweep away the patriarchy, complete with an illustration of hands holding up mops and brooms, because nothing says female empowerment like mopping. But I digress. For now, the Solo Si es Si law is up for amendment a mere 6 months after it was originally passed, and it looks like the parties in the coalition government aren't going to come to any sort of agreement about just what to change. In Madrid, the two factions of feminism, radical and queer, will be marching separately on Women's Day. Other cities have a variety of events planned. Barcelona and Catalonia have many different events. You can check your local Google search for details if you happen to be in Spain and want to go to something. Also, people have already started changing their bureaucratic sex at the Registro Civil, the civil registry where they keep all the information about who's who in Spain. Like I said, it's an interesting time to be a man, a woman, or what have you. That's about all I've got for today. I hope you have a great day wherever you are in the world. You can go back and check out my blog, expatmadrid.com. You could support this podcast with a financial contribution at expatmadrid.com/donate. You could sign up for my YouTube channel, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Learn Spanish with Daniel, which does exactly what it promises. You could do any number of things. You could write me a message when you go to the blog, expatmadrid.com. There's plenty of ways to contact me, and I love to hear from people who have read my articles and have comments. Anyway, have a great day, a lovely Women's Day, and we will talk soon. Hasta la próxima. Bye.